Have you ever wondered why you keep falling into the wrong relationships, even when you've loved with all your heart? Why those who once stirred your soul eventually leave you feeling lost and drained? Or why, despite doing everything right, the man who truly fits still hasn't shown up? You are not wrong, and you are not lacking. There is a deeper reason, one that modern psychology has begun to touch upon, but only Carl Jung truly unveiled for what it is. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is not just a philosophical reflection. It is a gentle warning of what is steering you from the shadows. We often believe love arrives by chance, a fateful encounter at a cafe, a well-timed swipe on a dating app. But that is only the surface. True love, the kind that expands your soul and reveals more of who you truly are, does not come from luck. It arises from a deep resonance between you and the undiscovered self within you. It's not that the right person hasn't arrived, it's that you have not yet truly faced the woman in the mirror, the one who can look her fears in the eye, embrace her shadow, and step beyond the self society has long conditioned her to be. Jung called this journey individuation, the process of returning to your original self after encountering and reconciling with all the parts you once rejected. And it is only within this sacred journey that love can truly take root, not as a remedy for emptiness, but as a reward for wholeness. The love you seek is not ahead of you, it is mirrored in the very path you're willing to walk inward. This video is not for those seeking quick tips, flirting strategies, or tricks to make him fall. It is an invitation to step through the door into Jung's world where you meet yourself again. Not the version polished to please others, but the original, self-raw, real, and radiant. From there, you no longer search for love, but become the energy that draws love to you. So how do you begin this journey? How do you stop being led by unconscious impulses and start living from awakened awareness? The answer lies in the first key, the foundation of everything. Know who you truly are. In the next part, you will be guided step by step into that discovery, not through logic, but through the deep psychological reflections Jung left behind. Are you ready? Because this will not just be a video, it will be the first meeting with your true self. Have you ever noticed something strange, that at times you may not be in love with a real person, but with a projection, an inner image of a part of yourself you've never truly met? Jung called this projection, the act of casting onto others what resides deep within our unconscious, especially the archetypes of the anima or animus and the repressed parts we call the shadow. 1. The shadow, the hidden soul directing your path. First, imagine yourself searching for the right kind of love, yet continually finding yourself in fragile, draining, or ambiguous relationships. In truth, a part of you, one that has never been acknowledged, your shadow, may be drawing you toward people who mirror its energy. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The shadow holds all the aspects society told you were wrong: fear, rage, forbidden desires, and even passions you were taught to suppress. When these parts go unrecognized and unbefriended, they silently steer your relationships. You may find yourself magnetically drawn to partners who are selfish, aloof, or volatile, not by coincidence, but because they reflect something unhealed within you. Relationships are not accidents, they are mirrors. Once you recognize and embrace your shadow, you stop attracting others who carry its energy and begin to invite those who embody authentic light. 2. Anima, animus, a seductive illusion or the real person you seek. If the shadow is the darkness, then anima and animus are the unconscious templates of love, idealized images formed by early experiences, culture, and the figures of your upbringing. Jung said that every man carries within him an ideal inner woman, his anima, and every woman carries within her an ideal inner man, her animus. If left undifferentiated, these images exert magnetic force. You may fall not for a real person, but for someone who resembles this inner archetype. The danger: you may begin to live out a role, the gentle wife archetype, or the protective male figure, becoming enslaved by these illusions. When the anima or animus dominates the psyche, you fall in love not with a person, but with a symbol. Jung warned of possession. When these internal figures take over, they short-circuit the true process of individuation. 3. When the shadow meets the anima, animus. In a relationship, if you've not yet integrated your shadow or differentiated the anima, animus, you become susceptible to powerful primitive energies. the need to be saved, to feel unconditional safety, or to be enchanted by unresolved forces within. You love the image, not the person. The result is an emotional landscape of inner drama, not authentic union. 4. How do we keep the audience with us to the very end? Invite them to reflect the person you are seeking right now. Are they real? Or are they the embodiment of a part of yourself you've never met? Suggest a simple exercise. Observe who you fall for most quickly. Do they reflect your anima or animus archetype? And offer reassurance. Facing your shadow and awakening the anima, your animus within, doesn't make you lose love. It opens the door to a deeper, more real connection. Say it gently, almost like a whisper. You are not alone on this path. If you feel called to say, "I'm meeting myself before meeting anyone else," tag us and share one short sentence. One thing I've discovered about myself that moved me. We'll feature the most honest reflections in the next video. This community isn't just here to listen, we are here to connect. Each of us walks our own path, but through each other we see ourselves more clearly. 5. A natural bridge to the next chapter. And this is where the true journey begins. How do we know when we're falling for an image and when we're loving a real person? In the next segment, we'll take a step-by-step exploration of the anima and animus, navigate the terrain of the shadow, and begin choosing partners not to complete us, but to resonate with the wholeness we've already claimed. Are you ready? This won't be a lesson to breeze through. It will be a journey into your own depths, where love is no longer illusion, but the sacred reflection of your own inner wholeness. You're not dating him or her. You're dating a stand-in scripted by your mind. Jung once said the persona is the mask you wear to survive in the world. But if you don't know you're wearing it, you'll forget who you truly are. People live as the lecturer, the nice one, the perfectionist, and come to believe that's who they are. But behind those polished and socially acceptable facades, they lose connection with their true self, the inner center that has never been acknowledged. The long-term cost of living behind a mask. When you wear a persona for too long, you begin to feel hollow. You speak what you think others want to hear, even when it doesn't reflect your truth. One day you no longer know what feelings are yours. Your emotions become diluted, your energy drains, and you find yourself estranged from your own being. This disconnect weakens your relationship with your inner reality and opens the door for the shadow to creep in the parts you've refused to become. And be fear of rejection, buried anger, suddenly erupting as random outbursts, depression, or acts of quiet self-destruction. The most dangerous moment is when the persona collapses, when the mask is stripped away. You may fall into an identity crisis, feel disoriented, fractured, unsure of who you really are. Jung called this the moment of crisis, the beginning of true self-discovery, but without guidance it can lead to despair. When the shadow is not integrated, the shadow, that dark and unrecognized potential, not brought to light, will begin to take control. Self-sabotage, recurring dreams, intense emotional triggers. These may be signs that the shadow is rising like an unloved child demanding to be seen. Jung warned, only by facing your own darkness can you become whole. Are you in love with a person or an archetype? Imagine falling in love not with someone's soul, but with what they awaken in you, the anima, or animus, an internal idealized figure. Perhaps it's the image of the nurturing mother or the protective father, someone you've never truly encountered. To love such a symbol is to fall for a mask, not a soul. And when the illusion breaks, you feel betrayed, disappointed, or triggered to protect something that never fully existed. You want to love them, but your unconscious has already scripted the role. To what extent are you living through a persona? Ask yourself, when was the last time I spoke my truth without caring what others thought? When you laugh with the crowd while your heart wants to cry, that's persona. When you tolerate coldness or dishonesty because you fear losing the relationship, that's shadow silently at the wheel. If you're watching this video thinking, I want to love someone whole, but keep attracting relationships where you lose yourself, that's an inner signal the persona is running the show. You're not alone on this path. If this week you've caught yourself thinking, I'm dating someone, but I feel like I'm acting common, I'm wearing a mask. If you've loved someone because they reminded you of someone from the past year, I realized I was loving an image, not a person. You'll read every response and choose a few to include in the next video because you're not alone. And sharing is a powerful first step to seeing into one another. A bridge to what comes next. In the next part, we'll explore how to face and integrate both persona and shadow to gradually return to yourself, not perfect by society standards, but whole in your own truth. You'll learn how to use the persona as a flexible tool, not a self-denial, and how to turn the shadow into a deep source of vitality, not a lurking threat in your relationships. We'll go step by step from identifying what you hide to writing a letter to your shadow, to reclaiming your soul through active imagination. Are you ready to take the next step into the depths of individuation? Because behind every mask lies a beam of light waiting to be seen. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I feel more free when I say no to others rather than yes? In every intimate connection, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, we need internal boundaries. But sometimes we find ourselves hiding behind those boundaries, not as a form of protection, but as a form of defense. Jung reminded us boundaries are a sign of self-respect, but avoidance, often rooted in avoidant attachment, is when we build thick walls to keep others from touching the tender places inside us. Boundaries, the pathway to self-worth. A boundary says, this is my ground. You may pause here or be invited in, but you must respect the terms. It's the voice of a valued self. When you say, I need quiet in the evenings to recharge, or I'm not ready to share my grief just yet, that is a healthy boundary. It not only safeguards you, but also invites maturity from both yourself and others. Jung emphasized fully accepting oneself is the first step toward drawing authentic lines of self-honoring. Avoid an attachment when boundaries become armor. But when your walls exist to keep anyone from truly seeing you, that's no longer a boundary but an unconscious defense. You avoid closeness. You stay away from real emotion. You run from the roots of connection in fear of being hurt. This doesn't protect you, it isolates you. It keeps you from learning through pain and unconsciously recreates the very pattern you fear abandonment. Jung warned that the deeper we drift into avoidance, the further we stray from ourselves. Boundary or defense, which is it? Ask yourself, when I say no, is it from self-respect or from fear? A boundary is firm but intimate. It says it'll open when I feel safe. Avoidance is a silent wall that appears the moment someone tries to come close. Check your body. How do you feel when someone reaches toward you? Do you feel safe, or are you only reacting out of protective reflex? The inner story. Picture yourself building a house of the soul. A boundary is like a gentle door, one you close to rest, then open when you feel clear connected. Avoidance is a door locked tight. You live inside and slowly forget you ever had the power to open it, to reach out, to be touched by warmth. In time, your private shadows grow larger, and even you feel like a stranger to yourself. How to recognize and reframe. When you say, I need time alone, is that self-care or emotional escape? After saying no, do you feel peace or anxiety? When you allow others into your space, even in small ways, do you feel alive or threatened? Try writing a letter to your boundary. I need space, but I also long to connect. It'll open when it feels safe. A listener once shared, I said no for years without thinking. But when I finally asked myself, why am I saying no? I realized what was missing was a desire to be separate, but a deep longing to be touched and understood. That was the moment where boundaries met loneliness and found connection. Community reflection, you are not alone. If this week you found yourself hiding behind a "I'm fine" or "I just need time" comment below. This is how I feel when I say no. I'll read every share and feature a few in the next video, because there's no shame in needing protection and no loneliness in needing connection. Bridge to the next chapter. In the next part, we'll explore what it means to meet your true self, the version of you that emerges after healthy boundaries are drawn. You'll learn how to channel your personal energy into magnetic presence, not by trying harder, but by becoming softer, fuller, whole. We'll begin to compose the inner music where I am enough meets I am open. So love no longer echoes through you, it resonates from within. Are you ready to stop hiding and begin living from your truth? Have you ever wondered, I long for confidence, but deep down I fear being truly seen? In Jung's inner journey, there exists a subtle realm between authentic self-respect and self-concealment, a boundary so delicate yet profoundly powerful. Not a rigid wall, but a soft door, one that opens inward toward your very being. When a boundary is a mark of self-honor, think of a boundary not as a cage, but as a guiding wire, gently bringing you back to your truest self. When you say, I need time to rest after a long day, you are creating space from self-love, not fear. It doesn't shut you away in the dark. It gives you ground to return, recharge, and choose connection again. Jung once said that fully accepting oneself is the first material needed to craft healthy boundaries. This is the foundation of psychological maturity. When avoidance replaces self-love. But have you ever noticed yourself saying, "I need space," not from choice, but from the fear of being hurt? That's when a boundary becomes a shield, one that not only blocks others from touching you, but also separates you from the lifeblood of connection. In attachment theory, avoidant individuals often appear skilled at setting boundaries, but these quickly become cold, impenetrable walls, boundaries so rigid that others grow discouraged and leave. This is not what Jung meant by conscious distance. True space is sacred, where your inner worth remains intact even as you let the vibrations of connection echo within it. Ask yourself, is this boundary protective or defensive? When you say, "I don't want to talk about this," is it from grounded self-respect or trembling fear? The difference is subtle but vital. A boundary says, "I feel safe enough to choose how and when to open." Avoidance says, "If I open, it'll be hurt, so I won't open at all." Jung believed truth heals. Avoidance only prolongs the wound, keeping you exiled from your own core. How it feels, boundary versus avoidance. If you've ever told someone, "Today I just want quiet," not because I don't need you, but because I need to feel myself again, you felt the softness of a boundary. You didn't close the door. You simply paused to breathe. But if you've said, "I'm fine," with a hidden lock in your voice, if silence became armor, avoidance has taken hold. Jung teaches that when you live from your true self, not the outer shell, boundaries become creative, not barriers, but bridges. You're not alone. Connect here. If you've noticed yourself saying, "I need space," more often than "I need rest," you are not alone. Comment, "I'm caught between boundary and avoidance." I'll read each one and share a few in the next video, because this path is not walked alone. Everyone carries walls of their own, but sharing is the first small opening through which real connection begins. A bridge to the next chapter. So now, if true boundaries are safe harbors and avoidance is a draining wall, then when do you open the door and invite someone in? In the next part, we'll explore how to build bridges, not barrier, show to stand in a relationship without losing yourself. You'll learn to hold your personal energy with flexibility, allowing love and presence to flow without fear of loss or intrusion. Are you ready to step closer without stepping away from yourself? Have you ever felt that you're living in what seems like self-actualization, yet deep down you still don't know who you truly are? Jung mapped a journey he called individuation, the return to the original self, where every fragment you've hidden is slowly brought into light. Along this path, we've met boundaries, shadow, anima, animus, and now we arrive at the self, the radiant, unified center of the soul. 1. Healthy boundaries are symbols of a soul awakening. When you say, "I need time for myself today," it's not an act of separation, but a fresh act of self-love, like soothing yourself the way a lifelong friend would. This is a boundary rooted in self-respect. Boundaries aren't walls. They're courtyards, sacred spaces, where you return, restore, and rise ready to meet others again. Jung once said, "Accepting yourself is the essence of the whole moral problem." And that's why we need boundaries, not to keep people out, but to keep ourselves from drifting away from who we truly are. 2. When boundaries become defenses, a shadow that blocks connection. Have you ever said, "I'm fine," only to quietly abandon the emotions inside you that were waiting to be seen? That's avoidant attachment, a form of protection that becomes isolation. Instead of standing firm in your self-worth, you freeze your emotions and treat vulnerability as danger. Jung warned, when the persona becomes too dominant, it buries the authentic self and you disconnect from the river of feeling that gives life its meaning. 3. When a boundary becomes a bridge. The difference lies in the inner experience. Do you say, "I need space," because your self is calling for restoration, or because you fear someone getting too close? Jung believed boundaries are how you stand rooted in yourself, clear enough to remain sovereign, soft enough to recognize when someone is truly reaching toward you. A healthy boundary says, "I'll open when I'm ready, but am not afraid to begin." It's where the natural authority of the soul emerges, not as resistance, but as resonance. 4. Community reflection. You are not alone. If this week you found yourself saying, "I need time to let it become a wallet," it'd be the opening sentence. Comment, "How do I feel when I say I need space?" I'll select a few honest reflections to share in the next video, because we all carry boundaries of our own, and sharing them is a gentle act of being seen, of being human, of reconnecting. 5. A bridge to the next chapter, from boundaries to inner magnetism. If a true boundary is the wire that leads you home, then the next destination is where you discover your inner magnetism. Not attraction through appearance, but through the self you've learned to love. In the next chapter, we'll explore the quiet power of the self that no longer needs to prove only to exist. We'll learn how your personal energy becomes magnetic, not because of how you look, but because of how deeply you stand in your truth. In that space, people aren't just drawn to you, they're inspired to begin looking into themselves. Are you ready to drop the performance and open the door to a love that comes from behind the mirror? When light begins to filter into the deeper corridors of your soul, into corners you once believed you had already come to know, that's when you begin to touch what Jung called the self, the original whole self that has always been calling you home. But before stepping into that sacred ground, have you ever asked yourself, what truly makes someone stay? Is it words? Is it appearance? Or is it something quieter, an unspoken energy, a soft steadiness you feel in your chest? The echo of self in every action. Have you noticed that when you live aligned with yourself, with quiet self-respect, you don't need to say much, yet others see you, feel you, and want to be near you? That's the self radiating from within, not the ego striving to impress, but the soul resting in its own light. Jung once said, when the self shines through, you are no longer a personality, you are a field of energy. People are drawn not because of what you offer, but because they can't help but be moved like warmth emanating from a silent lamp in the stillness of night. When magnetism becomes freedom, true magnetism isn't about appearance. It's not about trying to be loved. It's the quiet synthesis of all you've faced, accepted, protected, and open. When the self is strong, you no longer fear whether others accept you. You are safe enough to open without losing yourself. In that moment, words become just enough. Silence becomes full. You don't wish to be seen, but if someone does see you, it's because they recognize a part of themselves in you. Your mission in the collective. If you feel a subtle stirring now, a quiet knowing that your soul longs to leave a light on the comment below, I feel like a lamp in the night. We'll be gathering the most honest, gentle reflections to include in the next video, because you are not alone. Every connection we make is another vibration in a collective that is slowly waking up together. Why the self is the final door. The journey we've taken through shadow, persona, anima, animus, and boundaries was always leading here to the self. When the self rises, it is not some lofty ideal. It is the part of you that was once cast aside, once trembling, now returned, embraced, integrated. From here, love doesn't need to be sought. It arrives. Not as a reward, but as a soft, inevitable multiplication of what already feels whole. And it comes only when you stop searching for a reason to be loved and simply are enough to receive it. Next chapter, living from the self. In the next part, we'll explore how can the self become not just a sacred moment, but a way of living. We'll learn to breathe with the self, walk with the self, and love from the self. And when you do, you'll no longer be the seeker, you'll be the one who is found. Are you ready to step through the final door into a world where love is no longer a formula, but a presence? And now, as we've journeyed together in a full circle, deep into the soul, through the shadows you once avoided, across the thresholds of boundaries, mass, and the unseen energies of anima and animus, I invite you to pause here. Take a soft breath. There's no rush, because the destination is not the only thing that matters. What matters is this moment where you stand now. Can you feel your own presence? In a world that constantly urges you to prove yourself to be more beautiful, more successful, more validated, the act of stepping back and asking, "Who am I?" is one of the most courageous things you can do. And if you're in that place now, you are not alone. Millions of other souls are beginning the same return. And each time you touch a forgotten part of yourself, a piece of the darkness is lit. A piece of the self is named. Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The greatest gift of life isn't becoming someone else. It's daring to be yourself wholly vulnerably, even if you're still unsure. You don't need to rush into healing. You don't need to figure it all out. Just choosing to be present with yourself today is more than enough for a deep transformation to begin. If this video touched something within you, a sentence, an image, or even just a quiet moment that made you want to stay with yourself a little longer, comment with just one line. This is the part of me I'm learning to love again. I would love to read and gather these quiet truths for the next video, because in sharing you are not only healing yourself, you're reminding someone else out there that they're not alone. If this feels like a journey worth continuing, hit the subscribe button not to follow a voice but to walk alongside a return to yourself through every symbol, every archetype, every forgotten fragment Jung left as breadcrumbs on the path. Each week we'll walk a little further together, sometimes in silence, sometimes through pain, but always with moments of awakening. You are always invited to be part of this journey, not as a viewer, but as a soul remembering itself. I'll see you in the next video where we'll move beyond observing the inner world and begin learning how to live from it. Where love is no longer a reflex, but a natural breath rising from the deepest place you've touched within yourself. Thank you for staying this far. It means you're already listening to the quiet call of your own soul. With respect and presence, we walk forward together toward the light within.